Thank you so much, Jaume, for accepting our invitation and for being here and sharing your experience and your knowledge about this interesting field in citizen science, which is the citizen observatories. And we are very curious to share with this group of students and researchers in Ukraine what is your job about, what is the importance of citizen observatories, and everything you want to tell us about us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andrea, for inviting me and give me the opportunity. Well, as you mentioned, my background or my main role in the citizen science research, it's in the design of citizens observatories. And basically, citizen observatories are the platforms to be used in citizen science. I always mention it, it's like the ships for oceanography or the telescopes for astronomy. Every single discipline of research requires some infrastructures to work, and citizen observatories are the ones for citizen science. So basically, they include any kind of I would say technological component that facilitates the acquisition, validation, and transformation and storage, if you want, all the observations and data. So that means that you could consider as a citizen observatory. Usually there is linked a server in which you have all the observations, but also I would say usually there is a social. It can consider as a social media or social platform in which there could be interaction among the different volunteers. Also the interaction between the volunteers and maybe the coordinators of the project, and also the acquisition devices, do-it-yourself instruments, apps, dedicated apps that you can download on your mobile phone that allows you to give or to provide such a kind of information. And all of this kind of infrastructure is what is called citizen observatories.
And these citizen observatories are also located in a physical space. They belong to a university, they belong to an NGO. Is there an office as well, or everything is like in the cloud?
It depends. Now, for example, we are trying to, because one of the problems right now is that one of our concerns is that in many cases, as in some places they are treated as projects, not as infrastructure. When the project is finished, the problem is who is maintaining such a kind of infrastructure. Mm-hmm. If you think in terms, for example, as I mentioned, that the ships in oceanography, the governments are fully aware that it is part of the research infrastructure. So there is dedicated budget, to allocate and to support these kind of things. In the case of the citizen observatories, it can be, well, it depends on the project. In many cases, there are several servers that run at the university or the research center. In some cases, it could be cloud-based. But in any case, the main problematic is the sustainability of that. And for example, now we are within the particular project, we have the cost for cloud. The cost for cloud, we are thinking on the idea, to engage or to integrate citizen observatories within what is called now the European Open Science Cloud. Think that in the future, hopefully, this kind of infrastructure will be treated as other type of infrastructure. So they will remain beyond any kind of project that is developed with them. So the idea is that later then, for example, any kind of, university or research group or consortia that they decided, okay, we want to go or to move on or why not, to maintain a citizen science project, the infrastructure is there and they will be supported. Until now, I can tell you that it depends. It depends mainly on the projects that support that citizens observatories, and in some cases could be even an NGO supporting something. In other cases, luckily, there are extra support from, I don't know, the governments or whatever else, and this allows, a longer existing citizen observatories. You can see, for example, just to give you some examples, Arportalen, it's a citizen observatory in Sweden. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's about 12 or 15 years of existence. And now it's a citizen observatory for reporting biodiversity. And it's one of the most important in Europe. It's not probably very well known because they are mostly on the Swedish area, the ones, but they have like 60 million records or something like that, or even more than that. So it's a huge number of records. And why? Because it was supported by the Swedish government. Similar happened, for example, with iSpot. For example, that's another type of biodiversity citizen observatory that is supported at the UK. But in other cases, it's complicated. And it's a very challenge for those that want to, support these citizen observatories to maintain them. In fact, if you review the history in Europe, in the different framework programs, many of the citizen observatory has disappeared because after the project was finished, there was not enough resources to keep it, to keep them, and this created, that at the end they disappeared. And now one of our main concerns and goals is to ensure the sustainability of the citizens observatories for developing citizen science projects.
If I am a citizen, how do I benefit from having citizen observatories in citizen science? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, it depends also on how that citizens observatory are designed. Okay. But in some cases, I put the example, if you want to be a blogger, you don't need to know anything about how to build a blog platform. You can go, for example, in a blogger platform, and you create your own blog.
Yeah.
And you are the proprietary of that blog. And you can have followers, and you may have also following other bloggers as well. Imagine that Citizen Observatory could be something like this. You can create your own project. You can manage your own project, your citizen project, but you have all the facilities in terms of some people could follow your projects. You can have exchange. For example, in many biodiversity platforms like these ones, maybe you can report, you take a picture with your, you download the mobile app, you go, I don't know, you walk on the woodland and you see a flower and you take the picture of the flower and you don't know which flower it is. But you can upload it there, and thanks to the knowledge from other community, they can tell you which is that flower. So there is, they overcome some of the technological barriers, the knowledge barriers in some cases, So you can contribute. Maybe you are very interested on contributing about the environmental quality of your surrounding, but you can create, for example, a very local project, you and your neighborhood, and then you can share with them, but also you can share with many people maybe far away that you don't know. But they can give you some information. They can identify you for you those species that you don't know. So the platform by themselves allows you this kind of exchange between large communities that you otherwise you don't have any media or capability to interact with them, and facilitates in some cases that a very small group that they do not have capacities or even the knowledge to create their own platform, particularly those that are based on cloud services. You can go there, you can create your own space, but you can share with the rest of the community. And that's the main importance of the platforms.
Thanks, that was very clarifying. And also to see the the practicality of it. I think it's a great thing that the observatories are being pushed forward, and especially the sustainability aspects. And about the data, Jaume, who owns the data, and what are the issues with data? We're always concerned about data and these FAIR principles. Could you elaborate on this?
Now, at the beginning, it was not as clear as now on the importance to define what is called now probably data governance. Who owns the data? Which are the rights of the data? If I share with the rest of the people, which will be the final acknowledgement to me, for example, and also we are now discussing, it's nothing completely clear, because in some cases, we have shared intellectual property. I can give you an example. Imagine the example that I told you. You go to you take a picture of the flower, so you are the owner of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone else helps you in identifying, that other person are the owner of the classification. So you can see in terms of intellectual property. So you should share. This observation is the contribution of many people. Those that take the picture, those that helps in identifying, the final ones that validate. Or imagine that you are using not your mobile phone, you are using an instrument which was made by other people, a do-it-yourself, device,
mm-hmm.
and you are measuring, the temperature on your garden. Well, I think that part of the contribution are the ones that they design that instrument. Maybe they can offer you, and all these kind of things, create a new idea or a new framework to understand in terms of intellectual properties and property rights. And this is part of our research, how to establish the optimal governance in all these kind of things. And also, one thing that we were discussing a lot, it's, for example, that this can make happen. Some people think that if I'm the one that I'm uploaded that picture on the platform, because I'm the owner, I have the rights to delete it, to delete it. But there is the discussion that, well, you uploaded that picture, but other people, they help you to identify. So if you are deleting the picture or the observation, then somehow you are I don't know, it's maybe hard to say rights violation or rights, but they have also their own rights in terms that they help you. They spend part of their time helping you. So we were considering that probably the final right is that, okay, if you want, you can be completely, unlinked to that. I don't know, for whichever reason you decide, I don't want my name attached to that picture. Okay, that's fine. But then you have your own right to say, forgive me. I don't want to be any kind of link with that observation. Okay, you have that right. But maybe because that observation belongs finally to the community, you don't have the right, to completely delete. And this is something, there is a lot of discussion on that, which are the rights of every single, I would say, owner of that observation. And there is no, I would say that there is no full
consent
on that.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion, if we want, even philosophical or ethical, and this is part of our research to find the optimal solution. So whoever wants to participate, they feel comfortable, and they feel that their own rights will be, in any case, acknowledged and respected. And I cannot give you a clear answer or final answer on that.
But it's fascinating to realize how complex is the world of data and the world where technology meets personal interests and meets the creation of knowledge, and this is where we are now. So these are the questions that we have to deal with, and the consensus that we have to hopefully achieve, or they hopefully will arrive. Yeah, and the citizen observatories, when did they started, more or less? Do you have a track of when this tendency or this field of or discipline was born?
Yeah, I think that the name by citizen observatories started in the 7th framework program.
Okay.
So it was the 7th framework program. Then we have H2020, and now we will start Horizon Europe. So
yeah, so like around the 2000s, I would say, 20 years ago.
I would say, I think that the first Citizens Observatories call started in 2012, if I remember well. So it's about 10 years, roughly.
Okay.
10 years ago,
even...
roughly 10 years ago, and they started naming like this, because before it was not named like Citizens Observatory. They said Citizens Platform, or I don't know, platforms or collaborative platforms or whatever. But the term Citizens Observatory started in that 7th framework program, around 2010, more or less, and it's becoming more common, probably in Europe, because it was a term that it was used in the European Commission and the European calls, probably in other places in I don't know, in America, Latin America. Now some people they call it citizen observatories, others say participatory platforms, others say collaborative platforms. I don't know. In any case, that's the idea, if you want, in terms of infrastructure, and probably because now we are more and more concerned on the sustainability on that platforms, because that's true, that for other people they say, okay, I can try to set up something like this in any other social media, such as, I don't know, Facebook. If you go to Facebook, for example, as an example of one social media, there are many now citizen science project that goes there, and they set up there because they have more or less the feeling that, first, it's very easy to set up there a group. It's very easy to exchange information, but the problem is mostly on this data governance. Who owns that data? Which will be the policies? Will be available for the people if you want to do some research on that, pictures on that exchange of information, where it will be available. They will be fair in terms of findable, interoperable, reusable, and accessible. We don't know, because that social media owns to a private company that decide in some cases to change the policies. And what we want, it's completely different. We want that empower the people, but also create the capability that those people that are part of the Citizen Observatory also decide which will be the governance of that Citizen Observatory. And the only way to do that is creating open platforms. And this is more or less what we are searching right now. And with the idea that, of the European Open Science Cloud, we hope that this will...
Jaume, do you have any example of a bad experience, or because of this data governance that it's still not clear or it's in work in progress, where things went wrong because of that, or because of bad misuse?
It's not, I wouldn't say misuse, but there are some, I would say, a little bit of concern or a little bit of conflict in terms of different citizen observatories. The most famous ones, I would say, eBird or iNaturalist or things like that. In fact, they are the ones that they provide. Finally, they collect and they integrate all the data, and they are the ones that transfers this data to the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. It's one of these examples where Citizen Observatory transfers the data to a global repositories. The advantage, or one of the good things on GBIF, is that they are now tracking more or less the use of that data and report to that platforms who is using that data sets that they have already transferred. But that data set, in fact, was owned by other people, the ones that provide the data. And in some cases, people now are concerned that they say, look, we are working a lot, we spend a lot of our effort, money, resources to create that data, but because that data finally goes to these, I would say, large scale platforms, of very famous platforms, and are the ones that transfers later on GBIF, if you see the statistics, they say, eBird is providing this, iNaturalist is providing that, but in many, it's very complicated that they name the small NGO, the small people that are the ones that really collect that data. And I know that some people are now concerned about this lack of visibility. So probably we need to find a way that finally if me, and when I say me, let's imagine a small NGO that are concerned about the environmental quality of their village, for example, or a lake nearby or something like that. And they put all the effort on going there, providing the data. There is a benefit for them, but also they would like to have some visibility on that. For example, if part of that data at the end, because it goes first to, I don't know, imagine that a bird through eBird goes to GBIF, or iNaturalist goes to GBIF, and someone else from GBIF take that data and create a journal paper. In many cases, maybe the acknowledge will be thanks to GBIF, or at most thanks to eBird, or thanks to iNaturalist. But what about the origin of that data? What about the NGO or the small group that are the ones, that spend their own time? And I understand that it's not a criticism for these platforms. It's a challenge, if you want. But we are now searching how we could provide this visibility or the acknowledgement to the ones that are really originally they provide the data, the real data providers. Obviously, there is also the contribution from eBird or iNaturalist or whichever else platforms, because the data curators probably are the ones that finally validate the data. So there is also contribution from that platforms, but there will be a shared contribution. So the acknowledgement of these platforms are ensured right now. It's ensured. At the same time, there is another problem. We need to ensure as well the data privacy, if you want, because that's a problem with citizen science. If I'm reporting my pictures and my pictures are available publicly in public domains, but my name is attached there, someone can track where is my, for example, temporal pattern. They can know, for example, that I am in certain places during the weekends. Imagine that I go every weekend to a particular place, and this is private data. So there is also this concern or this trade-off of acknowledge the contributions, but at the same time ensure that the data privacy. And we are now searching how to solve this part of the problem. And this, I think, it's part of the concerns or something, the tools that has to be implemented within that citizen observatory. So at the end, for the users will be transparent, but for us it will be a way, to ensure that they are acknowledged, but at the same times they remain in their own private data, because it's mandatory. That now the European rules are very strict on that, which I think is good, but it's a challenge for us.
Wow, and so every app that it's like iNaturalist or eBird, they are citizen observatories?
I think so. Yeah, I think we can consider, although never, were mentioned this as per se as a citizen observatory. But if you think in terms of, they're the ones that provide the data storage capabilities, the validation capabilities, the exchange and things like that, the exchange between different users and so on. And are very costly. I mean, I understand that for them it's complicated. They were, they had the advantage that now they have a very good economic support that allows to exist. Well, I think that I don't remember exactly how many years, but we are talking that more than 15 years each one of them. So, and for example, that projects usually are 3 or 4 years of duration. Yes. So that's a problem. We are talking about infrastructure that, if you in time scales, we are talking about 20, 30 years of running operationally. They cannot be supported with projects that are only 3 years or 4 years.
So for these big citizen observatories like iNaturalist, for example, who is investing money to make this happen, and at the end, who will own? Who is the owner of these apps, and who is the owner of these observatories, and at the end, who will be the owner of the data?
Well, the data the owners are the ones that they are participating. If you open an account in those platforms, you will see that you own the data. Okay. The point is that there are some rules on that platforms, and in some cases, because there are only a few institutions that are supporting economically those platforms, if they decide to change some of these rules, probably you as a user, well, you can complain a little bit if you don't like it, but probably it's difficult that unless there is a huge community that is against any kind of decision, if it's only a small group, you have to live with that in terms of, okay, the platform is like it is, and we cannot change more than that, or we need to optimize. And what we are trying now, it's probably, well, it's something that it's under discussion, but we are considering that now the new area will be more related to federated systems in terms that, there will not be a single server or a central server. There could be many, many different servers. So at the end, you can have something that, why not? Imagine as a kind of eBird or iNaturalist or whatever else, but there is no a single server, but there is servers in, I don't know, in Germany, in France, in Italy.
Like blockchain technology.
Yeah. Part of the blockchain, it's part of the technology that maybe helps in this idea, of distributed services.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is not new. This was discussed, for example, with the social platforms. There were a movement on they say that those social platforms, like, I don't know, we mentioned Facebook, but it could be Instagram or whatever else. I mean, those that have millions of users right now. There are some people that complain or concerned about the privacy or the rights of the data governance on those platforms, and they created distributed social platforms. There are several of them. We think that that's a good idea, and this is something that we hope that it will be created in a similar way for citizens observatories. The ones that that there could be several platforms, maybe some of them with their own private rules, helping all of them. So the idea, of sharing knowledge, of sharing ideas, or sharing information between them, it could be done, but with a little bit more of freedom or control from bottom up, because the centralized systems are the ones that I understand that you cannot, answer all the requirements of all the people. So if it's a central system, but if it's a cloud of distributed systems, part of these nodes could more or less change a little bit and adapt it to a particular needs or particular rules from a small company, a small community. And we think that, well, it's my opinion. Other people, they say, no, it's better to have these centralized systems. But I think that these federated distributed systems, for me, are the future. And we hope that with this idea of the European Open Science Cloud, it can help on the creation of these distributed systems.
Super interesting. I feel that we can keep on going and talking about this for days. It's really, as I said, a fascinating and huge topic. Super interesting, Jaume. Thank you so much for this chat. I think we have a lot of food for thought to discuss here in the course. And if you would like to say some words for closing the interview, go ahead.
Well, just thanks for you to give me the opportunity. And well, I'm happy to know that there are more and more people now interested on citizen science and in general, and also in particular with the Citizen Observatory. And I hope that if someday we have this distributed federated system, part of this assistance on that course will be part of the ones that they will lead part of their own nodes.
We also wish that. Thank you, Jaume. Thank you very much.
Okay.